What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about what equipment you need as a calisthenics beginner. Also, some equipment that you don't need that you should probably avoid. That way you're not wasting your money, wasting your time, all that kind of stuff. The number one thing you probably don't need as a beginner is a weight vest. As a beginner, you should be worrying about mastering your own body weight, not trying to add weight to it. If you can't even master your own body weight yet, then what is the point of getting a weight vest? It is absolutely useless for you as a beginner. Don't waste your time, just keeping it short and simple. You don't need a weight vest. If you cannot do 10 to 15 pull-ups with your own body weight, 15 to 20 push-ups with your own body weight, like 10 to 12 dips with your own body weight, there's absolutely no reason you should be using a weight vest. No reason at all. Save some time, save some money, get through the basics without it. Equipment number 2 that you don't need as a calisthenics beginner is parallettes. You do not need these. Everything you can do on these, you can do on the floor. Pike push-ups, you can do on these, you can do them on the floor. Push-ups, do them on these, you can do them on the floor. Pretty much anything you can do on a pair of parallettes, you can just do on the floor. So if you're trying to save some money, you don't need parallettes. Again, just work on the basics. Work on your own progressions. If doing it on the floor is too hard, do it against a chair, against a bench, something like that. Once you start getting to the intermediate phase and start trying to learn like some real skills and things like that, then sure, use a weight vest. Sure, use some parallettes, all that stuff. But until then, just focus on the basics. Push-ups, pull-ups, dips. You don't need any fancy equipment. Next piece of equipment, gymnastics rings. Now, these are actually my favorite thing to use when working out. I do my entire workout on gymnastics rings. You just unravel them, wrap it around the bar. They hang. You can do pull-ups on them. You can do dips on them. All kinds of stuff. I love gymnastics rings, but I'm also not a beginner. I am more in the intermediate phase now. So I have moved over from stable bars to gymnastics rings. If you have not used rings before, and especially if you are a beginner, because they're dangling by ropes, the instability is going to make it a lot more challenging than if you were just doing like dips against a bench or on a stable bar or something like that. So these I would not say are beginner friendly. If you have bars and things like that, don't even bother getting rings. They're not going to help you. If anything, they will just hold you back, just like the weight vest. If you haven't mastered your own body weight, and you try to put on a weight vest, it's just going to hold you back because you're not going to be able to do very many reps. Same with these. If you haven't mastered your body weight on a stable bar, then trying to do your workouts on rings that are very unstable is going to be a lot harder, and you're not going to be able to do as many reps. So, rings, my favorite piece of equipment, but for a beginner, you do not need these. In fact, I would say to stay away from these as a beginner until, once again, you have mastered your own body weight. You can probably see a common theme in this video, which is, if you're a beginner, master your own body weight. That's it. Pretty short, pretty simple. That's all you got to focus on. If you want me to actually post a beginner-friendly workout that you can follow in order to master your own body weight, go ahead, leave it in the comments below. There's also some miscellaneous equipment. For example, grips. I honestly only use grips if I am lifting weights. I do not use these for calisthenics. These are Versa grips, the best grips I've ever used and the only grips I have ever liked. They're super simple. You strap it around your wrist, wrap it around the bar, dumbbell, or whatever, grab onto it, and then that's it. And you are not letting go of that bar if you are using these. You can literally hold onto it with like your fingertips and you still won't fall off the bar. That's why I love these things so much. And they're actually comfortable. The figure 6 straps just never seem to fit right. They always like hurt my wrist and things like that. The figure 8 straps are always like too big. I have very thin wrists. These are amazing. I've never had a single problem with these. If you are a beginner, do not use straps because you want to build up your grip strength. That way you're not like falling off the bar in the middle of a set of pull-ups or something like that. If one day you forget your straps or don't bring them with you or something. Don't use straps. Build up your own grip strength. Especially with calisthenics, you are holding onto bars all of the time. So if your grip strength is not built up, it's going to make things so much harder later on. Do a lot of dead hangs and things like that at the end of your workouts. That way you're building extra endurance and stuff in your grip. I still need to work on mine. Mine is not great, but it is getting better. Now, another kind of miscellaneous item, yoga blocks. These are good for stretching and things like that. And for some things like, if you have bad wrists, you can do push-ups on these, kind of like on the corner. And it might not look like it, but it does actually help your wrist quite a bit. If you're doing push-ups like this, as opposed to having a flat hand. So if you have wrist problems, things like this can help. So if you're stretching, you can use them as markers. For example, your pike stretch. Let's say you get to the point where you can get flat hands on the ground. Then the next step would be to raise yourself up and then start stretching, trying to get your palms to the floor. But as a beginner, you honestly don't need to stretch that much. As long as you are doing your mobility exercises, mobility warm-ups. But you really don't need to stretch that often as a beginner, because as you can see, I can touch palms flat on the floor. Sometimes I can even get pretty close to like folding myself in half for my pike stretches. And honestly, that's not from stretching. That is simply just lifting with a full range of motion. Now we're going to get to the things that you probably should get as a beginner. All right. Number one thing that you absolutely need as a beginner is a pull-up bar. This is just one that fits in the doorway like this. It's got handles. You can do your pull-ups on it. You can do your chin-ups on it. You can hang from it and do knee raises, leg raises for your core exercises. You can even set it on the floor this way. Use these handles kind of as parallettes. You can do your push-ups on it and things like that. So this is one thing you absolutely need as a beginner, because you can do push-ups on the floor, but you cannot do pull-ups unless you have a bar. There are some things like inverted rows or like Australian pull-ups, where if you have like a dining room table, you can lay under the table, grab the edge of it, and then pull yourself to it. But once you get strong enough to actually start trying pull-ups, you will need some type of pull-up bar. So this you should definitely invest in as a beginner. This will get your pulling strength. And this kind of also goes with the next item. And this is probably the last item I'm going to talk about. And it's also the second thing that I think you need as a calisthenics beginner. And that is bands. They're kind of just like big rubber bands. They stretch. These will get you through so many sticking points as a beginner that I think, along with the pull-up bar, these are probably like mandatory. Like you need to get a set of bands as a beginner. If you saw my last video, my first video on the channel, I actually did show you how you can get to your first set of pull-ups using bands. Quick summary, You just wrap it around a bar, you step on one end, it takes some weight off, and you can do some pull-ups. If you want to see it more in depth, just go watch the last video. I'll talk a little bit more about it in that, but it's pretty simple. You just use bands until you can do pull-ups without bands. But this works with so many other things. And this will help you through almost your entire calisthenics journey until you get to like the advanced stage, to where you're doing like 90-degree and then handstand push-ups with your own body. But for the beginning phase, bands will get you to your first pull-up. They can get you to your first push-up. Just to summarize, the only two pieces of equipment I think are absolutely necessary for a calisthenics beginner are bands and a pull-up bar. These are the only two things you need. And they're relatively cheap. I mean, you can get a pull-up bar like this for like $30. You can get an entire set of bands also for like $20, $30. It doesn't only come with bands, it also comes with like handles and stuff you can attach. So again, you can do your rows with it, curls, things like that. So if you are a calisthenics beginner and you are wondering what you need, pull-up bar and bands. That's it. That's literally all I used to get through the beginner phase. Didn't use anything else. I have other equipment, but some of it I still don't use. It's honestly kind of useless, depending on what you're doing. Right now, I'm just simply trying to build muscle strength, learn some skills. All I really need for that are a bar and bands. That's it. And I mentioned I'm in the intermediate phase, and I still don't use a weight vest. I still don't use grips. I still haven't used the yoga blocks. That's all just kind of extra equipment that sits at my house, and I do basically nothing with, just because I don't need them. If I could go back in time, I honestly would not have bought them. Just stick with the pull-up bar and bands. Once again, if you want me to make a video of a simple workout any beginner can do that will get them through the basics all the way into the intermediate phase, let me know. Drop it in the comments below. Leave a like on the video, subscribe. It helps me out tremendously, especially since this is the beginning of my channel. If you have any tips on how I can make the videos better for y'all, let me know that too. I want to try to make good content. Leave it in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.